You're listening to Workforce Innovation News, powered by LWIA 23. Get ready to hear about all things workforce development and workforce innovation. And now, on to the episode.
Hello, and welcome to WIN Workforce Innovation News. I am Jamie Korda-Hijawi, the Director of Workforce Investment for LWIA 23. Today, I have the lovely Chris Strohl with me. She is the Dean for Workforce Development and Community Education at Lakeland College. Thank you for being with me today, Chris.
Jamie, it's a pleasure to be here today.
Awesome. So I wanted to talk to you today about the college's role in workforce development. And I figured that would be right up your alley since you are the Dean of Workforce Development at Lakeland College. And I think you have some really interesting insights on what the college does to support workforce development and economic development in the region. So before we get into some of the hard-hitting questions, do you want to go ahead and just kind of give a background of what you do as the dean and anything else you think is relevant to workforce development?
So Lakeland College, one arm of the college is workforce development. Workforce development sometimes catches a lot of different things. So for Lakeland College, within our workforce development division, we have all extension centers. So we have an extension center to the south of Mattoon, to the west of Mattoon, and to the east of Mattoon. Those are located in Effingham, Marshall, and Pana. Also within workforce development is the Center for Business and Industry. WIOA, so Jamie's division, is also part of workforce. We also have adult and alternative education that fall within that group. So lots of different things going on. We do serve a population that maybe is not a traditional college student, or maybe is someone who is coming back for some additional training. So workforce is definitely something that we look at every day, and it is something that I think is changing as we are coming out of a pandemic. So let's just say we're coming out of this, and that the role that community college is going to play moving forward, I think is going to look a little bit different than what it's looked in the past.
I think you're right. Things are changing. The whole environment around us is changing, and what we've done before is not going to necessarily work in the future. We are going to have to try some new and innovative things to see what works best in the new normal. So you've already kind of touched on some ways that the college supports workforce development, but I want to delve a little deeper into that. And one thing, before, my background is not necessarily in higher education or community college. I was part of the private sector and worked just a normal job for many years. So coming into the higher education world, into the community college, I did not realize how important business engagement was. So from your perspective in workforce development at a community college, what does business engagement look like? How important is it really to the community college?
You know, Jamie, that's a really good question, because business engagement is a key, for me, I feel like it's a key component to community college in general. One of the first ways I think that business engagement is important is our programs that are some of our shorter term programs. And that would be anything that's less than 2 years for a student to complete if they were going full time. We have advisory committees where we have different groups of people will come in and they will talk with the program coordinators. A program coordinator is just somebody who oversees an area and looks at the curriculum within that area and the different experiences that students get within that area, so that they can help prepare students the best way that they can for students to enter the workforce. So the needs in healthcare might be very different than the needs in the business sector, but yet some of those may overlap. So I always kind of like to look at it like a Venn diagram. There's always going to be a little piece of that soft skill that employers are going to want to see, but the direct skill that a person does during their workday in business is going to be different than healthcare. Now I use those two areas, but look at manufacturing. Same thing. They're still going to be part of that Venn diagram. They're still going to need those soft skills, those communication skills, those social skills, but they're also going to need a different skill to work within the work environment. So one way is those advisory committees meet with those program coordinators to talk about, are they hiring our graduates? And if they're hiring our graduates, I'm going to say when they're hiring our graduates, when they're hiring them, are they meeting the need that the employer needs? Or is the employer needing to do some sort of additional training with them? So is that additional training at that point, is it something specific to that employer, like a specific kind of program, software, or a skill that's needed there? Or is that more of something that is industry-wide? And is that something we should be including in our curriculum as we're looking at curriculum development? And I'm not even going to get into how curriculum is developed, because that is a whole like beast of its own, how you develop curriculum. I also think that our Center for Business and Industry works very hard with business engagement. That business engagement piece might look very different than it does for a student who is a full-time student or maybe taking specific classes. That business engagement piece is actually sometimes how they're going to be working with Jamie's office through WIOA, taking workers that are at those entry-level positions and providing them some of the training that they need. So Bonnie Moore is our director for the Center for Business and Industry. She goes out and talks with business and industry, and they may say, we need a specific training in this manufacturing area. We need pneumatic training, hydraulic training, TIG welding. They're not necessarily wanting that worker to be a full-time student and to learn a whole gamut of skills. They're really looking for that employee to learn a specific skill so that they can move them up within the organization and then bring in new people into those entry-level positions. Jamie's office can work with the students and the business and industry to provide some of the support services needed. They can also help that employer with offsetting some of those costs for some of those trainings. So I think those are three really big ways that we can work with that business and industry for that business engagement piece. Those advisory committees, what the Center for Business and Industry can do, and then how WIOA can help those businesses and or students be able to offset some of the cost.
You just talked about everything that I had on my mind for how Lakeland supports business and industry, supports the workforce. But looking closer at the advisory committees or advisory groups, I've sat in on many in the past, and there was one in particular where the feedback from the industries, the employers that are out there living that program's dream every day, their feedback was so monumental. Like, it was surprising, it was robust, it was really good information to take back. But that session led to a complete change of numerous programs in the information systems, information technology department. Complete, maybe not rewriting of the curriculum, but changes to the curriculum and changes to how many programs within that sector were laid out. So that really spoke to me about how dynamic Lakeland College was and how responsive they can be to the workforce and the needs of the workforce. What other types of situations have you seen or opportunities have you seen for Lakeland to exhibit how dynamic we can be in our response to what a dynamic, quickly changing landscape is for the workforce?
I think one example would be, it's been a couple of years ago, North American Lighting out of Paris came to the college and said, we have this specific skill set we are looking for our entry-level folks to have. The college looked at that, they developed curriculum, they sent it through the channels at the college and then also at the state level, and started a program that is now not only offered for North American Lighting, but is also offered for other manufacturers in the area. It's called a manufacturing skills certificate. It's a 16 credit hour certificate. So it gives the employer some freedom, but yet provides the employee with some of the very general knowledge that's needed to come into a facility like that. If you can get some of those basic skills, then you've provided a gateway, a pipeline. You can use many words to demonstrate this. A lot of times it's called a talent pipeline. You can generate revenue for that business because you can fill those empty spots that they have at those entry-level positions. And if businesses aren't able to fill some of those entry-level positions, you're going to see some of those businesses decide we're going to take some of our business somewhere else, or we can't hire employees here. So one of the ways that we can help business is by trying to be more reactive to what they are needing from us. Sometimes we're not very good at that in education. I'm just going to be honest. Sometimes being reactive is hard for us. We have a lot of things that happen at the state level that we're required to do, which sometimes makes that difficult. So I went to a meeting this morning and Seymour Milling was there, and it was one of their representatives said that they are having such a hard time hiring some of their entry-level positions. They're looking at a newer piece of equipment, but someone will still have to operate that piece of equipment. They won't necessarily need the manual labor to load the flour, but they will need someone to operate the piece of equipment that they won't need to hire as many of those entry-level loader positions, but they will still need to hire someone that is a higher level technology person, so someone more in the IT area. So I think that is a way that the business is being reactive to their lack of entry-level employees, but I also think then the college can be reactive to that, finding new opportunities in the IT area so that someone can operate that new piece of equipment so that the business can still continue on and be able to produce as much as it has in the past.
And you can also tell them about WIOA and how we can help train the new person on that new line of equipment. See?
It's a bagger. I don't know what a bagger does, but that's what he called it, a bagger.
Well, let them know WIOA can help them train a bagger.
Always looking for new opportunities to train. And that's one of the other things that I thought was important in a college's role is being able to provide that training to industry. And a lot of people think you go to a community college, you're going there for a degree, an associate's degree. But community colleges, specifically Lakeland, has a whole lot more to offer than just associate's degrees. And like you said, we are really attuned to the specific needs of a business and do what we can to accommodate what they need the most. So you talked about a certificate. Are there other credentials that Lakeland can provide to students or employees who are going through training for a job?
I think one of the ones that we will see an increased enrollment in our area for our Center for Business and Industry, they have a CDL program, Commercial Driver's License. Jamie and I have talked just briefly about this. There are local employers. I'm going to use Rural King as an example. Local employers will hire people who have their CDL. In the past, they have wanted those CDL drivers to have 2 years of experience. Right now, because there is a shortage of truck drivers, and as we know, transportation, distribution, and logistics is wow. There's a lot going on. Things are not moving as fast as people want to buy them. There are things sitting on docks and ports all over the United States that are not getting moved near as fast as maybe they have in the past. The average age of I call them a truck driver, but someone who holds that CDL credential. So keep in mind, that's a credential that not only does someone need sometimes for business and industry, but they need in the farming community, they need to move petroleum, all of these things that we sometimes don't think about, that those trucks that are traveling up and down the interstate right outside of our window, they are carrying so many different things and trying to get them to people who are wanting them, whether that's gallons of milk or gallons of gasoline. They're carrying so many different things out there that keep our culture, our society alive, because we want to go places and we want to have milk on our cereal in the morning. So those CDL credentials are hugely important. The state of Illinois is going to be moving to the federal program starting in February of 2022. I'm going to use my own family as an example. We live on a farm, we haul grain to the elevator, whether it's to St. Louis to the river or to the local elevator in our own town, especially when the guys are farming. Right now, my family, my boys both have a CDL. They could go in, read the book, take the permit test. As long as they had a semi, which we have them at the farm, my husband could take them in and they could get their CDL. So they can go out and drive 80,000 pounds down the road. Starting February 7th of 2022, everyone is going to have to go through some sort of formal training. So where there has been the ability to not have to do that in the past, that's going to add a whole nother barrier to those CDL drivers. So your local businesses are going to have a harder time getting some of the supplies in that they need. So that's a credential, I think, as we look in the future, that is something that someone can do in 6 weeks or less.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that the CDL could be accomplished so quickly. I did think it was a more longer term program. But also, you speaking about the CDL, it's going a little off topic, that I have heard of other colleges looking into doing apprenticeships with that. Do you see a CDL credential being apprenticeship worthy?
I absolutely think that that is a possibility. And as we look at the possibility, or let's keep our fingers crossed that we'll be receiving a DCEO grant in a few weeks, or receiving notification that we're getting it, we're going to have a new apprenticeship navigator that will serve this local workforce area 23. So that will offer us the opportunity to be able to offer new apprenticeships. So not only will that serve community college, and not just Lakeland, but the other community colleges that are part of local workforce area 23, but we'll also be able to help serve business and industry. And that kind of ties back into that piece where many businesses that hire individuals with a CDL, they wanted 2 years of experience, and now they're like, we'll take them directly from class now. We're not looking for 2 years of experience any longer. We'll take them directly from the class. And if there's any specific training that we want them to do, we will be able to provide that training to them. We've also got a new CDL simulator on order. So that we're very fortunate that the college did approve a new CDL simulator. And we've also just recently got a Class B box truck. So that would be somebody who works for UPS, drives a garbage truck, any of those pieces, they would be able to take the Class B training and be able to go right into the workforce. So very short-term training there.
Yes, but it's always so exciting to get new equipment, because now these students are getting trained on something that they're actually going to use in the workforce, and not just something that was used 30 years ago and isn't really applicable to the workforce today. They're getting up-to-date hands-on training, and that's amazing. So you have very eloquently talked about all of the amazing ways that community colleges support local workforce development. You've talked about training, you've talked about business engagement, and just being responsive to what the local workforce needs. Community colleges, I think, are often seen as a stepping stone to a four-year university, liberal arts degrees. And I think sometimes people forget that there's this huge component that is workforce development. It is training people for jobs that they can get into after just 2 years or after just 6 weeks of training on a specific occupational skill. So LWIA 23 and workforce development in general has a very strong partnership with local education providers, and we could not do what we do. We could not meet our mission if it weren't for the help of Lakeland College. And we at LWIA 23 are lucky enough to be employees of Lakeland College. And I know a lot of the other LWIAs across the state don't necessarily work at their local community college. They may work at an economic development organization or such. But we are lucky that our partnership is very strong. And we do work with other colleges in the area, but Lakeland, our borders are close to similar. You take up most of our area. So we're very fortunate in that way. I love to hear all the great things that Lakeland's doing, even when it's not WIOA associated for workforce development, because it is ultimately benefiting the entire region, and it's wonderful. So Chris, do you have anything else you want to add about how Lakeland supports local workforce development?
I've been at Lakeland College for almost 22 years. I could talk all day about Lakeland College, but there is so much value in community college no matter where you're at. If you're in Lakeland's district, we would love to have anyone out there that is interested in attending college and doing any kind of training with Lakeland College, whether it be, I just want to take a welding class because I want to be able to weld my yard ornaments, I'm not sure. Or I want to look at being a nurse, or I want to look at a completely different career. Maybe it's a person that is not that traditional college age student, that 18 to 24 range. Maybe it's somebody who is in their 50s and like, I'm just tired of what I'm doing and I want to find something new. Reach out to, whether it's Lakeland College or the community college where you live at, reach out to your community college, meet with one of the academic advisors, find out from them what kind of programs they have, because there is a wealth of knowledge at your local community colleges that will help you be able to either take a different avenue or a different pathway in your career, or to start a completely new pathway in your life. So I can't say enough about community colleges and what they can do, not only for business and industry, but also for community members and individuals as they are looking at something new.
That was marvelous. Very well said. I could not have said it better myself. I really appreciate you being on today. I know this was kind of last minute that we decided to do this, and I cannot express how grateful I am. I love having you on. You are our first repeat guest, I do believe, and I'm sure that you will be back on at some other time in the future. So thank you so much, Chris. It was wonderful. And I will see you all later. Bye.
You've been listening to Workforce Innovation News powered by LWIA 23. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about LWIA 23, visit lwa23.net.